much for having me tonight. I just want to take a moment to do some recognition, if that's okay. Veterans, raise your hand if you could keep your hands up. Do we have any first responders, law enforcement, fire? Thank you. EMS, 911, your 911 operators? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. You are the reason I get to do this. So we have to remember that. And I know that Tilly, you said no politics, but would that be okay? Just at the end, a little bit. Okay. Well, I want to start by asking you 3 questions. How many of you would say that you have more stress than you have ever had right now in life? Right? Okay. And how many that raise your hand would you say you have effective strategies, coping mechanisms to really deal with the stress on a daily basis? 2. Yes? Okay, awesome. 3, 4. Good. Well, for the rest of you, you're going to leave here tonight with some strategies, tactics, and tools so that when the stress does rear its ugly head, because we've got a long road ahead of us with what's going on out of DC. When the stress comes up, you'll be able to kind of nip it in the bud. My name is Samantha Horwitz. I go by Sam. I'm a 9/11 first responder, former United States Secret Service agent, and I was in Tower 1 on 9/11, and that led to a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder in 2003, which I'll get into in a little bit. I'm also a wife and a mom. My son, if he was here, would be cringing right now. This is how I choose to remember my little boy, who's now 13-year-old teenager going on 20. And I have 3 awesome dogs, and you'll find out why dogs are so important to me as well. Everybody remembers where they were on 9/11. And for me, it started out as just another Tuesday. I was up early on my way to the office. Now, I lived in New Jersey, worked in New York City. My building was 7 World Trade. And I found myself caught in an accident, and I knew by looking at the clock that I was going to be right on time for a meeting, which meant I was going to be late, right? First responders, military, right? Okay, because if you're on time, you're late. And I raced down into World Trade Center 1's parking area as soon as I cleared the accident, got on the elevator, and started my ascent up. And during that ascent, all of a sudden the lights started flickering and the elevator car started shaking. Now, I thought I was getting stuck in an elevator. I was already late, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm never going to live this down when I have to tell my supervisor what happened. But then it was as if a hand grabbed onto the top of that elevator car and started yanking us up at a very rapid rate of speed. And then out of the blue, bam, we stopped. And we stopped so abruptly that the elevator car is bouncing under the tension of the wires. The doors fly open, and we are met with the hottest ball of dust. It literally blows us back into the elevator car when we're trying to get out. Now, my training brain immediately kicked in, and I was like, okay, there's been an explosion. I'm looking at what's going on around me, debris field, get out. So I grabbed as many people as I could, went up an escalator and out an exit door that I had never used before. My gut just said, Sam, go that way. And that's what I did. As a first responder, you listen to that voice, that intuition that tells you, kind of moves you effortlessly. And what it did is it put me and a few others. If you guys can see this, this is World Trade Center 6. I ended up at the corner back here. And when I came out onto the plaza level, I just stopped in my tracks. And that's because there was a lot of debris coming from above. I couldn't see because the towers were so high that your line of sight got lost. And World Trade Center 6 was a very unique building. It was the old post office building. In the basement was a gun range where we could shoot. Nobody knew that. And the lobby level had this like overhang over it. So outside, you were shielded from, rain and other things, which came in handy since I had to walk to the plaza to get to my building, which is, again, World Trade Center 7. And on this day, World Trade Center 6 saved me from being hit by pieces of metal, pieces of people raining down from above. And I knew at that moment that my mission was to get to my building. So I skirted around World Trade Center 6, got to a pedestrian walkway, which you can't see pictured here, but there was a walkway that went across Vesey Street right here and put us into World Trade Center 7. And I got to that walkway, the corner, and I could look across into the glass doors of my building, and I could see my supervisor and some of my squad mates inside my building from where I'm standing. And I could see my supervisor saying, "Come on, Sam, run." And I paused. They're my squad mates, my supervisor, of course I trust them, but knowing that all of this debris was coming down, I was a little bit scared. And as a Secret Service agent, the word scare kind of isn't in the vocabulary, but it really made me pause. And then I snapped back to, and I was like, "Sam, come on, get with it. Your supervisor will always have your back." She had my 6, of course. She had a different perspective than I did, so she could see what was going on. So she's going, "Run, run." I take off running across that pedestrian walkway, make it into my building. She's making sure everything's attached. I'm like, what is going on? And we are all thinking the same thing. There's been some sort of explosion, and the proverbial dust will settle, and we'll all be upstairs in our office investigating what this was. As we're standing in the lobby, Tower 2 gets hit. Now, I didn't know when I was in the elevator that a plane had struck the World Trade Center up on 94. And that vacuum effect with the elevator car getting sucked up really fast was because the elevator car next to us, the air was being pushed down. See, when the plane hit, it was full of jet fuel. So the jet fuel and fire were pouring into the elevator shafts, and I don't know, somebody decided to bring us up while the other elevator car went crashing all the way down to the ground floor. Doors blew off, almost severed the leg of a worker who was down at the basement floor, and thank goodness one of my squad mates was right there with him and carried that gentleman out, and he survived that day. So here we are, kind of wondering what is going on. We're watching the glass bow inward when Tower 2 gets hit. We're thinking another explosion. We don't say a word, we're looking at each other, we're thinking the same thing. Coordinated bombing attack. We are the 3rd tallest building in the World Trade Center complex, and we are next. See, in addition to the United States Secret Service field office for New York City being in that building, then Mayor Giuliani's Office of Emergency Management was in the building, and some other organizations had offices in that building that the public didn't know about. It made sense. So we decided to evacuate, and we made it out of our building, walked 2 blocks, and made it, if you can see right here, this is West Street right here. So we came out, walked past the Verizon building, ended up at this corner. And it was the first time that we got an idea of what had taken place. We could see Tower 1 in front of us, huge gaping hole in the top, just debris and everything, fire coming out of it, and behind it, Tower 2, which we knew was on fire. You could see the thick black smoke trail. Again, no idea it was planes, coordinated bombing attack, because that makes sense. And we're standing here looking at it, and a squad mate of mine, we hear these brakes just go, and we look over, and he's rolling down his window, and we're like, "Where'd you come from?" And he's like, we all go over there, he's like, "Oh my God, guys, did you see the plane?" The plane that hit the tower. Dude, what plane are you talking about? There's like these 2 really tall buildings. Planes see the building, right? Why would a plane fly into the towers? He's got his radio on. we hear that the Pentagon just got hit. We're like, are we at war? Are we being attacked? And here we are standing on West Side Highway, out of our building where all of like our really cool guns and other things are still stored. So we're feeling a little bit naked. I do have my sidearm, but it's not the same as an MP5 submachine gun, just saying. So he turns his car around, gets out of the city. To this day, I still wonder, why didn't we just get in the car and leave with him? I don't know. And we're standing there and we're looking at the towers and we're thinking, okay, a plane flew in. Well, maybe I see a part of a wing there. We can't see Tower 2 at all from our vantage point. We just know it's on fire. And so we're trying to wrap our heads around plane inside the building. And then we see the first person jump. Like, turned to my squad mate and I was like, Ange, was that a person? And we brushed it off. Then we see another one. And we're watching people make, I can't even explain or rationalize what kind of decision that must have been for them. But after the 10th, I stopped counting because you could feel it when they hit the ground. It sends shockwaves, like a little earthquake. And this entire time, my brain it's taking pictures. We've all been or heard press conferences, like you hold down the shutter, it's like, well, that's what the brain is doing. And that's what my brain is doing. It's taking in everything that I'm seeing, everything that I'm experiencing, everything that I'm smelling, and I didn't think anything of it. I knew that I had a job to do. I'm a Secret Service agent, and we kept hearing, as you can imagine, a lot of sounds, different sounds that day, and we kept hearing this low grumbling, growling sound. That's how I explain it, and it just got really loud all of a sudden, and Tower 2 comes down. Well, we take off running into the closest building that was near us, which happened to be a school. Do I have any school teachers or school administrators? Okay, so paint the picture here. 60 armed human beings hit the front door of your school. It's going to get some attention, right? So the principal and the folks in the office come out to meet us because we're not going any further than the front door of this man's school. And he's like, hey, what's going on? My supervisor was there with us. She explained everything that had happened. And we asked if we could use the gym with the school nurse to set up triage because we had to go and pull survivors out. One problem, that dust. You couldn't be outside without having your mouth and your nose covered. So we're a resourceful bunch. The guys took off their suit jackets and started ripping up their shirts. Fashion bandanas around their faces. So a bunch of us go back outside. Myself and 2 agents stay behind because the plan was the agents would recover the people. They'd bring it to us. We would triage. We'd have the ambulance down, load them on stretchers, whatever needed to be done. And that's it. We had our plan. About 30 minutes goes by. Nobody's coming. We're like, this is kind of strange. And the principal says, hey, I've just been given orders to evacuate because we're only about 2 blocks from what would be termed ground zero that evening. And so we're like, okay, we'll help you evacuate the school. We're really good at it. What we didn't know was the school that we went into happened to be a school for mentally and physically challenged kids. So we're doing an evacuation with wheelchairs, with walkers, with crutches, you name it. But we get everybody out. It's myself, the 2 agents that were with me, the principal, a student who's about 6 feet tall, and his aide. And we're realizing that he is terrified beyond belief. He doesn't know who we are. And we're now taking him out of what is probably the second most safest place for him, his own home being first. So we're trying to walk back to West Side Highway, and we come to a point where this young man, he's like, he's had enough. And he stops in his tracks. He's not walking. The principal's trying to coax him. He's not listening. His aide is trying to coax him. He's not listening. He doesn't know us, but we're trying to, like, come on, you know, you can do it, just 1 foot. And we start hearing that low grumbling, growling sound again. The other two agents and I look at each other and we're just locked eyes. And we're like, we gotta go now. We scoop him up and we start running up West Side Highway because Tower 1 is coming down. And everybody remembers, if you watch the videos of that dust cloud, it's chasing us up West Side Highway. New mission, outrun that dust cloud. Well, we do, we slow things down. I mean, every muscle in my body feels like it is on fire. I'm putting everything into moving this young man. And we stop and we turn around and the dust starts to settle. And it's a scene out of The Walking Dead. I mean, people are emerging from this dust cloud completely covered. Blood coming from different areas of their bodies. And it's like, what do we do now? We've got this young man in tow. You can see his sneaker right there. And out of the blue, so we're looking at the dust cloud, we turn with him, an ambulance appears. Okay. To the firefighter paramedics bail out of the bus. They see us carrying a person. They don't know how young he actually is, and they come over and they help him. And these are the two gentlemen right here and here. So he takes the leg that I was carrying, and we get him loaded onto a stretcher and into the back of the ambulance, and they drive away. Now, when this is going on, and you can probably tell from me, this is me, that I'm looking at something. I'm looking at the photographer that's taking this picture. See, he was taking a lot of pictures before these guys showed up. And what's going through my head is, you're taking pictures, we could really use your help, okay? You never know, the Secret Service, love-hate relationship with the press, always. It's still to this day. But you never know when a photographer is going to capture a piece of history. And the photographer on this day captured this picture, which ended up in People magazine. I got a call from my cousin a couple days later. Actually, no, 2 weeks later, because that's the September 11th memorial, People magazine. And it's, hey, Cousin Sam, you're on page whatever.
63.
Like, my mom, 63. I'm on page 63. And so I was like, what are you talking about? So we go to the store and we're buying the magazine, and sure enough, there it is. He took a lot of other pictures that made it into that specific edition of People is very meaningful. So, you know, photographers come and do good things every once in a while. So, the young man's away on the ambulance, taking him to a hospital, and we're left standing there going, now what? Well, all of a sudden, our pagers go off. Everybody remember pagers, scrolling text? Yep. Okay. So we're looking at the pager, and it says, all NYFO, which stands for New York Field Office agents, report to Pier 63. We had already walked further than you would walk in New York City on any given day. We were 2 blocks away. We get in there, and our supervisors are already there, and they had arranged for the U.S. Park Police to ferry us across the Hudson River to New Jersey, where the New Jersey field office agents were waiting with their vehicles to get us all home. So we had no cars gone. Again, because the bombing in '93 took the first time. So no cars again. And as we get onto the boats, and we're donning our life jackets, we're pulling away, and this is from a U.S. Coast Guard from Governor's Island, but you get the point. Pulling away from the scene, this is what it looks like. And everything that I had just been through was replaying in my head. So being in the elevator, watching the debris fall, watching Tower 2 come down, going in the school, what we did in the school, Tower 1 coming down, running with the young man, and it's all in this like weird replay loop. And it changed me. I didn't know how much it actually did until I was able to get back to my apartment at 5:30 that evening. And it started the cycle called post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, we had about a 30-minute block of instruction. You never think it's going to happen to you until it does. So here I am, I'm a Secret Service agent. I'm trained at the highest levels of law enforcement, and I just want to get out of the suit that I'm in because it's all dusty, and get in the shower, and I go into my bathroom, close the door, and my heart starts racing. I start sweating. I was like, what is going on? I open the door, I walk out, everything's fine. That was weird. So I go back in, close the door, same thing. Like, okay, something is going on. I don't know what it is, but I guess I've just been through something. So forget it, I'm not gonna shower. So I stay in my suit, and I go into the kitchen, get some water. And so that was the first clue, but I just brushed it off, like a filing cabinet. I just put it in the back of the filing cabinet. Secret Service agent, whatever. That evening started the nightmares. Very vivid nightmares, as if I was there. Then the hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is operating as if you have eyes in the back of your head. I don't have eyes in the back. They don't give you that in the Secret Service. I don't have eyes. Always on alert, to the point where I felt that I needed my gun to get the mail. And the mail was inside the building. Anxiety, startle reflex. If there was a dumpster truck, just doing what dumpster trucks do, I had that first kind of, looking for cover. What was that? Thunderstorms, something I used to love as a kid. I mean, I was glued to the window watching all the lightning and everything. Sent me reeling. Where's Sam? Oh, under the furniture. That's what thunderstorms would do to me now. Not quite Secret Service operation material going on here, but I couldn't explain or figure out what was going on. Then came, later on, depression, avoidance, and what I call up here an addiction to alcohol. It has taken me, lived in Texas 8 years. Talked to a lot of professionals, work with one now in a group that I have called a Badge of Honor, which is post-traumatic stress and suicide prevention for our first responder community. It took a long time for me to understand, in a lot of 12-step groups, that I didn't actually have an addiction to alcohol. I was using alcohol to numb what was going on, the anxiety responses. It would quell the nightmares where I could actually sleep a little bit. So that's what I was using alcohol for. And hey, dealing with post-traumatic stress is a journey. So I'm just really happy that I finally figured that one out. So, I had lost this Sam, this confident Sam who worked her rear end off. I was the only female to graduate in my class. This is the day I got my credentials. And I remember sitting at my desk reading the same paragraph of a report that I had to hand in for like the umpteenth time. My comprehension, my reading comprehension, my memory, everything seemed to be affected. I was not 100% at all, not even close. And I knew that an agent that couldn't operate at 100%, it meant that somebody might not go home that day because, we did big things in the Secret Service. And I couldn't have that on my shoulders, so I made the very difficult decision to resign and move back to Maryland, where I'm from, with my husband. So my husband was living in Maryland, I'm living in Jersey. And I thought, well, can't do the job anymore. At least I'm back home with my husband. I'm in a safe place, so I thought, and I'm out of New York City. I don't have to drive into the city every day. I don't have to smell the smells. I don't have to look at the freezer trucks, which has nothing to do with ice cream. And it's done, right? Well, since PTSD kind of lives up here, it goes wherever you go. So things did not get better. They actually got a lot worse. All those things that I talked about, the loud noises, the thunderstorms. And it got to a point where I put myself in my own prison, and it was called my home, because I could not risk being out in public and having something happen and me doing what Sam's response was diving for cover. So I hid everything from what was going on with me, from my family, everybody. Nobody really knew what was going on. And we were celebrating kind of sort of New Year's Eve one night. And that day I woke up and I got up, looked at myself in the mirror, and I did not recognize my own reflection staring back at me. Scariest moment in my life. And it was also a turning point. I decided right there, done. I didn't like the way I was, didn't like the way life was going, couldn't figure it out. Here I am trained, the top 2% law enforcement training in the world, and I can't figure out what's going on inside my own head. Just frustration, anger, resentment, bitterness, the whole gamut, if you will. And I was ready, I was done. Checking out, don't need this anymore. And I was wholeheartely convinced that absolutely nobody else needed me the way I was. So we said goodnight to some friends that had come over from New Year's, went upstairs to try and get some sleep. Sleep was still eluding me, and got out of bed, grabbed the remaining bottles of alcohol from the kitchen, went downstairs to my basement, got my gun, sat on the floor, drank. It's like, yep, we're done. Put my gun to my head, started squeezing the trigger, and a voice said, "Sam, it's not your time." And that Sam, the way it came out, startled me, and I'm looking around. I know I'm by myself in my basement. Nobody's there with me. I'm figuring that's where the voice came from. But I was in such a deep, dark place, I did not want to believe that he was speaking to me. So I drank some more, to the point where I was ready to pass out, put my gun to my head, started squeezing the trigger. My 10-pound miniature schnauzer, Solomon, jumped into my lap. I did not hear him come down the stairs, and he is usually upstairs in the bedroom, curled up in his own bed. And I am looking down at this cutest little fuzzy face, just staring right back at me, big brown eyes, as if they're saying, "I need you." I pass out, come to a few hours later, Solomon is right there by my side. And I get up, I clean up the scene, if you will, like it never happened, and right there I have a decision to make. I'm in the bathroom, splashing water on my face. Do I check out or do I stay present? Do I find out what that voice, "Sam, it's not your time," meant? Or do I'm just gonna go for it right now? And I don't know what it is about dogs, but there was no way that I was leaving. I wasn't gonna do it. And it happened to be, I think we were here 5 years, maybe 4 years. We were in church, not this church, a different church, and I was speaking, and a lady comes up to me, and I'm signing my books, and she taps me on the shoulder, and I'm like, "Hi, man, hi." She's like, "Sam, your dog, Solomon, yeah, he saved your life." "Yeah, Solomon saved my life." "Well, he's a dog." I'm like, "Yeah, he's a dog." "What's dog spelled backwards?" Like a lightning bolt through my body. Now you know why I have 3 dogs. just to make sure. So that's the story of little Solly. He's not with us anymore. But yeah, having dogs is super important to me. So I made the decision not to check out, to stay present. And I had forgotten at that time a very important lesson that I had learned a long, long time ago, that when things are at their worst, when you're literally down on your knees, like, help me, that's when victory is right around the corner. Now, the game is that nobody can give you a timeline, right? So every day, like a seesaw, stay present, check out, stay present, check out. Not a fun game and a very dangerous game. Until one day, I'm at home just hanging, and my mom comes over unannounced. She puts a piece of paper in my hand. She says, "We need you back." And on that piece of paper was a name and a number of a very skilled practitioner who she knew how to work with trauma. And I got a therapy called EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Right now, it is one of the #1 therapy protocols for our first responders who suffer from cumulative post-traumatic stress. See, our brains are like a filing cabinet, and when we experience traumatic events, we file it because we're in law enforcement, because we're not weak. There's no surrender. We just keep doing what we're doing. On to the next, on to the next, on to the next. Well, the filing cabinet drawer is only so big. Until one day, sorry, we're full. Boom. And it could be as benign as watching something on television or going into a grocery store and smelling a smell, and everything empties from that filing cabinet. It's not just the one, the entire filing cabinet. Okay, so after I got the help and understood finally what was going on with me, I started putting things into perspective. And after I got well, I did go back into law enforcement. It gave that, that's I was meant to serve. That was my purpose. And I had a wonderful career. Retired from that, moved to Texas, and I wrote my book. And everything that I learned sitting on that couch in therapy helped me get through this book. Yeah, there were days where I could only write for 30 minutes because everything came flooding back. But I had the management skills to deal with the triggers. That's what they call it in post-traumatic stress. You get triggered. So it takes you back to the event. So I put my story into book form, and after that, it was like, hey, could you come speak, come speak, come speak. There was that point where it was like, there's more than this. There's more than the book. So along the way, I was asked to come do a radio show, and this gentleman, I could tell is from New York, real thick accent, and he said, yeah, I want you to come in, talk about 9/11, and he said, I'm going to email you the details. Okay. He sends me the email. I call him, and he's like, well, that was quick. I said, is that your badge number in his email? He says, yeah. I said, from? He said, NYPD. And I said, on 9/11? He said, yeah, I was front and center. I said, okay, now I'm getting this. I had to move to Texas to meet the guy who's now my business partner in a badge of honor. So, hey, that's just how it works. He actually does have a plan. You just have to listen, get quiet enough to listen. And so, again, a badge of honor, we formed in 2019. We do workshops for post-traumatic stress awareness and suicide prevention for our first responder community. When COVID happened, we obviously weren't doing them. We're full up and running right now, and we are making a huge, huge impact. So up there, it says find your why. So while I learned those therapy things while sitting on the couch, I learned a whole heck of a lot more from what life was gonna just keep bringing me. Okay, and I'm just gonna go over a few. One of them is find your why. We're gonna dive right in to movement. I'm not gonna ask you to join a gym, although that would be cool. 'Cause now we can go to gym and do those kinds of things. For stress, I promise you that tactics and tools, find your why is number one. Number two, move. When you feel that stress coming on, and most people can feel it viscerally, whether their body temperature changes, whether they feel their heart kind of beating, whether they get a pain in their neck or their upper back, we carry stress differently. Get up and move. 10 to 20 minutes of brisk walking will release endorphins, those feel-good hormones that battle the hormones that protect us when we're in fight or flight. It's the cortisol, the adrenaline. Well, we have to have something that puts cortisol and adrenaline in its place. Movement dissipates that, activates stress, reduces the stress hormones. Belief. So anytime we go through life, if we have a plan, whether it's in business or dealing with something like post-traumatic stress, I knew what my life was like before 9/11. I knew what I wanted to do with my life after 9/11. I was doing those things. I had a glimpse into what it looked like, okay? Because with belief, it can either bury you or it'll help you soar. So if you believe in the voices that tell you you're nothing, you're never going to get well, you're never going to figure this out, who do you think you are? Like this weird imposter sitting on your shoulder. That'll bury you every single time. You'll just get stuck. But if you believe in the other voice, the thing that gave you that glimpse of what it's going to be like when you accomplish that goal. That voice when you doubt yourself that says, hey, you got a 5-year plan, let's go do it. You got this. Forget about what's going on. Faith, belief, it's all wrapped in. You believe that, and you feel it here. It's also a visceral feeling. When you doubt yourself, something else comes forward to say, You gotta believe in that voice always. See, I had to believe that in the voice that told me it wasn't my time, because I couldn't afford to believe in the one that had me pulling the trigger. When we deal with stress, fear is huge. We just don't like to call it fear, we call it other words. And it's usually, I'm just really stressed out. Or, yeah, I'm a little bit frustrated. Or, anger is a big one. Lots of anger. Well, with fear, you can forget everything and run, or you can face everything and rise. And when we face everything and we rise, we make that choice. That's where courage comes from. See, courage is not running into a burning building while others are running out. The most courageous act you can do for yourself is to ask for help when you need it. Nobody ever taught me how to ask for help. They taught me how to be a bad Secret Service agent. That's all I knew how to do. Everything had to roll off my shoulders. I had to file everything. Put it in that filing cabinet. Put it in that trunk. Push it away. Asking for help when you need it is the most courageous thing you can do for yourself. This is pretty courageous. A little penguin buddy. So I want you to just take a second right now and think about the toughest time in your life. Something that you went through, it took a while to get through. What's the thing or things you did to face your fear and find your courage? No matter what it was, we tend to make this like this big complicated, it must take a lot to get through stuff. Well, sort of, kind of, but we have to do something. And it's really simple. We just got to decide to act. We got to decide to take the first step. Okay? Nobody said it's going to be easy to take the first step, but I guarantee you, if you take the first step, you can take the second, third, fourth, 100th, whatever it is. Okay? So don't be scared of taking the first step, because it's going to lead you to the path that you're meant to follow. It's going to show you and keep uncovering and keep opening doors where you're going to accomplish your goals. So when the stress comes up, act, do something, move, read. Don't stay in the stress. Do an action and believe it's going to pass, and it will. Never stop learning. Boy, this is a big one. Man, I was not a good student in high school. I just played sports. Like, yeah, I'd go to college because it's a lot easier to get into college back then. And yeah, college was fun. I mean, I studied a little bit. College was fun. It wasn't until I got to law school that I actually was like, oh yeah, I have to study. But guess what? I chose to go to law school. I get to choose my classes that I want to take in law school to pick a specialty. So of course I want to learn about what I want to learn about. And that has followed me ever since. Yeah, did I have a few bumps in the road? Sure, because post-traumatic stress. It was like I didn't want to read anything. I didn't want to watch TV. And it wasn't until therapy that things started making sense. I was like, oh, I have to learn this because I have to be well. So now I have things that I put on my plate. I don't know how to do them. I mean, I was in the Electronic Crimes Task Force, which sounds really cool. We had the first generation Blackberries. You talk to me about committing crimes with a computer now. I'm like, huh? I'm not tech stupid. I mean, I teach myself how to do everything. I can read, I can look at a screen, I can navigate, and I figure if I can do that, if it takes me 10 days versus somebody that can do it in 2, I'm doing it in 10 days. I'm learning. And the post-traumatic stress journey, boy, that never stops. Because every time a new therapy protocol comes along, gets evaluated, goes through the proper vetting steps that it goes through, that we know that it works. You know, thank you, United States government, for making EMDR non-experimental after we already knew it was non-experimental for almost 20 years, because they used it with Vietnam veterans. It's just the way it is. But having that drive to learn new things, to learn the things now with a badge of honor, anything that I can learn to help somebody else navigate their difficult time and not pull that trigger, not drive off a bridge, not do bad things to themselves or others. That's our mission now. That's my mission. So never stop learning, because we get this one life, and it is the life that we choose. But you cannot be a victim of your circumstances and a champion of your cause at the same time. And I tell every audience member in our workshops, you've got stuff going on in your life, get it together. Because there is not one single person you're going to be able to help unless you help yourself first. Okay? Because we have all been through some stuff, a whole bunch of it. But it's what we do with it and how we turn around that matters. This is me. If you want to take a picture, I have cards out there. This is how you contact me. I'm on social media. Yes, I am on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It's a business thing. Do I wish I didn't have to be? No. Yes, I wish I did not have to be. But that is just where it is right now. And does anybody have any questions? Anything? I mean, I wrote a book, so you can ask anything. Really.
Who's the military guy that was beside you got your bag?
That was Frank. Yes, General Frank Siberian. Oh, who was the military guy? Maybe you know.
General
Shelton. See? I knew somebody would know. Yeah.
I was named second, and he was our two-star.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, he subbed. So Brian Stafford was our director, and he got called away, so he subbed. Yeah, we were one of the only classes that didn't have the director of the Secret Service at our graduation. It was kind of whatever. Yeah, can we talk a little bit about what's going on in the world?
We talk about politics.
It directly it relates to this thing called the Patriot Act. Because remember, after 9/11, okay, we got this thing called the Patriot Act. Yeah, I enforced it. Everybody thought the Patriot Act was fantastic. When I looked and saw why are these people arrested and sitting in jail without legal representation? Secret Service. We arrested people. Now, thank goodness, we stuck to the Joint Terrorism Task Force dealing with who attacked us on 9/11. Can't talk a lot about that. Our agency that has 3 letters starts with an F that is responsible for that. Okay. So what did they do with the Patriot Act? Year after year, it expanded, got bigger, more things fell under the purview, more people got arrested and charged for things. Okay. Have you walked into your bank lately and noticed the sign that tells you all about the Patriot Act and how the bank has to participate? Okay. It was all coordinated to kick off after 9/11, because what American isn't going to comply? We just got attacked, right? Everything we know about airports completely changed. We got this mad scientist organization called the TSA. You can't decide whether we're under a code red, a code green, a code yellow. You 3 ounces, 2 ounces. No, it's 4 ounces. Right? Everything changed. I mean, those planes destroyed our financial hub. That's where everything was housed. It wasn't an accident. And everything has spurned on from there. There is one word that is missing out of the Patriot Act, and I am waiting for this administration to change it when it comes up for renewal, because it's coming up. And when it does, we're in a whole world of trouble. And that word is domestic. Because right now the Patriot Act still is focused on foreign interests. We have to protect the United States of America from the terrorists, from Al-Qaeda, from ISIS, or whatever they're going to be called next week. We got to pull back that curtain and look at what's going on right here. We've got troops over there taking care of business. We are the troops here that need to take care of business here. And we're not doing a very good job. Well, we have, frankly, as a party, I'm just going to say it, rested. Oh, he said, is that why things are going the way they are? There's so much trouble here. And we've rested on our laurels. We got comfortable. We figured, yeah, the Republicans will just get in. Now, we all know who won the election in 2020. Okay? We all know. But we're stuck. Okay? We have a court system. We never thought the court system would be involved in the way that they are. Because they're supposed to be impartial, right? Judges are supposed to be impartial. They're supposed to look at the law and follow the hey, I went to law school. You look at you're trying a case, you look at the case law, you not anymore, apparently. So we're using what we know as the avenues of change because we've always used it. We've always used the legal system. Hell, we'll take them to court. We'll take them to court. And now we're realizing, oh my God, the judges aren't. They're all politicians. Judges are not supposed to be politicians. So we're stuck. But we're really not. We just decide that we're stuck. Because if we're not doing this together, if we're not out at our local school board meetings, and I'm sorry, I do not care if you do not have kids or grandkids in the school system, but you absolutely believe in freedom and you have a conscience and you operate on principle, you need to be at those school board meetings, because there are parents and there are kids floundering with these curriculums that the school boards are sneaking in under our noses. And you know how they snuck it in? COVID, which we all know is the biggest bunch of crap. Okay? They snuck it in because our kids are at home on computers. They can't be in school, and we're not in the room with them. But the teachers are teaching this curriculum. I have never heard this curriculum that these teachers get to choose from. It boggles my mind. I was like, no wonder they can't make change. I mean money change, not that kind of change. Like you go and you get a pizza and you, can I have my change? Oh, wait. Hello? There's no more common sense in teaching. There's no more values in teaching. There's agendas in teaching. And the school boards go out of their way to hide it from us. They do not want you to know. And so you've got to show up and support this, everybody at the school board meeting. You saw what they did in South Lake. They wiped them all out in one fell swoop. Parents said, critical race theory? Don't think so. Every single one of the school board members gone. Now, depending on what your ISD is, you know, you may have 2 or 3 up for election. But you got to push these people. They can't continue to run as Republicans when we know, in fact, they're Democrats. They cannot. Somebody said, my husband came home the other day, he said, I heard the greatest thing. He said, what? They get out there wearing their red ties, but they're wearing blue underwear. That's exactly what they're doing. And we've got to expose them for who they are. Because they're relying on us seeing an R next to their name. Oh, they must be good. And the next thing you know, we got critical race theory being taught in our school system. I live in the most conservative county in the state of Texas, or I say I used to live, Rockwall County. Not so much. Not so much. We know it. One by one, we're calling them out. They don't like it. They really don't like it. Because they don't show up at meetings anymore. So we know. They don't stand up and say, no, you've got it wrong. When we put a member, we elect a person who has a vested interest in masking our children, and we put him on the school board? No. In Rockwall County. Oh yeah, he's a Republican. Yeah, sure. We got a lot of work to do. Friend that I work with in New York, Dan Bongino. You guys probably heard of him. Got a great show. He talks about strategies, what it needs to look like, and we need to go all the way back to the lowest local office, and we need to work our way up. So we got like professionals and like John Vick and these guys that can like lead a charge that you know is a little bit bigger, and yeah, he needs help. We need to get people on the bandwagon, but I'm telling you, you start local, and our judges. Whoever went to thought about judges? Well, we're thinking about it now, aren't we? We can't take anything for granted. I call it pick and pounce. Whatever, hey, the Democrats, man, they are like swarming bees. They see a target, they sting it, and hey, I'm stinging, come on. And they don't leave until whatever they've stung is gone. We need to adopt the same level
of commitment, of stick-to-itness. We need to pounce on it, and we need to stay there until the person or persons say, I submit, you got me, we're electing somebody else. If Southlake can do it, we can do it. We can turn Dallas back around. As I'm telling you, Texas will go purple. If we do not stand up and we do not start changing things and we do not keep our eyes open and we do not connect the dots, and it takes a lot of hard work and it takes a lot of time to read and to listen to things. We've got to connect the dots. We can no longer separate COVID and the pandemic from the Republican Party. If the Republican Party is about freedom, is about the God-given rights, is about the Constitution, then we need to get out there and we need to chant it and we need to make people understand. If you're calling yourself a Republican, that's what we are. Otherwise, go to the other side. You cannot call yourself a Republican and be for masking our kids. If you've gotten vaccinated, that is your personal choice. I'm sorry to say, there is a plan that has been rolled out that includes the vaccination and taking away our rights. We need to fight. There's a vaccine passport being talked about. It's already in Germany. Europe has gone nuts. We can't let that happen here, but it's on our doorstep because one European country after the other keeps moving it right to our shores. And if we don't push back, and if we don't make our voices heard, we're going to pay the price. Big time. And this the way things are now will be nothing compared to what it's going to look like 8 years from now if we don't get somebody else back in the White House.
Yeah.
For sure. Sorry, I keep reading.
Oh, yeah. To me, COVID is a method of controlling us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things it seems like we should be doing,
is think of all of the people that went to a hospital or a doctor's office and were sent away and later died or went to the hospital with really bad problems. Well, guess what? If they had given them, instead of waiting for a vaccine or all the other things, just given them ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine or any of those things that were well known, that seems to me, and most of these doctors have no excuse. There are 40,000 doctors out there, Americans Frontline Doctors or the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons, right? There's proof that they're sending people out to die. We already know that. I've got a nephew that he's, what do you call it? He draws blood for insurance companies. Yeah, phlebotomist. Okay, a fellow that he had drawn blood for, he had some chemical imbalances. He committed suicide, and they called it COVID. All sorts of people have run all sorts of things like that. But here's the thing: those people who died or later got it because they had a mask on. And there's some neurosurgeon that says there's several things out there. It's going to go up guess what? Yeah, it's going to go right up into your brain, and you're going to be 3 months plus to get it out of your system because you were covering your nose, which is emitting waste products. Okay? But for all of those people, why not a class action suit against every hospital that's turned people away and asked for that? Sue them, and that is the end of COVID. Because number one, they've already proven, there's 3 university things that came out about 2-3 weeks ago, that your natural immunity, if you've had it, exceeds the vaccination. And the vaccination is specific to the thing they were working on when they engendered it, right? but it can mutate every 12 hours. So when they say, oh, there's a new one, well, yeah, guess what? There are millions of them. Anyway, but why can't we do a class action suit and just get rid of them?
I think eventually it will happen. Right now we're still under state of emergencies in all of these states. We've got a judicial system that isn't necessarily on the side, right?
Yeah.
What I call it, follow the money.
Oh yeah.
Right. Follow the money. And our family was not untouched by COVID. My nephew had it, and we lost our neighbors 2 houses down. If this isn't, I call it a mind screw, she's recovered from cancer, going to her doctor for treatment, contracts COVID in his office, brings it home, gives it to her husband. She dies first 2 days later.
But here's the thing, COVID is dangerous, however,
it's real.
Vitamin D3, 5,000 milligrams, and
Look,
you probably will not get it.
I don't think any doctor will tell you that COVID is not real. It is a real virus, okay? Left untreated, if you have comorbidities, yes, it can be very dangerous. The minute they took a drug off the market that had been FDA approved for 60 years, that's when people should have started, well, wait a second.
And Fauci even
People
said it was a
aren't,
good one.
right, people aren't dying when they've been given that drug. And all of a sudden you can't get, as soon as those firestorms started, people needed to start asking questions. But we didn't, because we didn't see the full picture of what we see now. That it's not about a pandemic, it's about an extension of the Patriot Act. How can we control the masses?
We should start pushing for the Patriot Act to be repealed. I don't know if it will happen willingly from them, but we should start pushing that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the Patriot Act would be repealed, but I would hope that, people, do you notice in the news how everything is domestic terrorism now and white supremacy? Why do you think that's happening? Because that's the plan when the Patriot Act comes up, to insert domestic in that.
And people, I heard this word in the news the other day, and that report that we read, groups that say that the government is overstepping its constitutional authority. But that's a fact, though. That's indisputable that they are. The Patriot Act is actually what I was thinking of. Everybody said it was at the time. Or
Yes.
Many people.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's no argument there that they are overstepping, but now they're going to say they're not.
Of course.
And, now they call us terrorists for saying so. Or white supremacists.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because I was called that. I was like, really, former federal agent, white supremacist? Have you checked out the FBI lately? And what do you mean? Check out the FBI, what they're doing to the people in this country. What does the FBI do? Does everybody realize what the FBI is doing? That Kennedy assassination? I'm reading a fascinating book right now, and this popped into my brain the other day knowing that I was coming here. So after the Kennedy assassination, we had the Warren Commission that was set up, right? Everything that went into the Warren Commission, it was what they wanted in the Warren Commission. Well, guess who did the investigations? The FBI. And they're doing the same thing that they did back then. They're only feeding what needs to be out there, the people that need to be jailed for no reason whatsoever, the people that are still being held under the Patriot Act for the January 6th insurrection. It's all the FBI, yes sir. Bye, John. Thank you so much. Say hi to Senator Hall. Say bye, John, everybody. Bye, John.
If we start protesting outside those jails and stuff, and outside the FBI, will be along with those people who are held without,
Held without bond. No access to attorneys or very little.
Solitary.
What happened to that?
Solitary confinement. Yeah, because they're dangerous. Yes, sir.
In the
Say again?
Kennedy wasn't killed by all the mob killed because his dad was in the mob.
Mm-hmm.
When they took the flames off their heads, that's what killed them.
Yep. We got some Castro folks in there as well. Oh, we just completely, we're gonna get in, let's not talk about the Kennedy assassination, but that was actually the first video that's shown when we get to our training academy and Secret Service, is the Kennedy assassination.
Shots come out of the bushes.
What's the purpose of showing you that video?
The Kennedy assassination? It was an introduction into the failures of a protective detail. So after the Kennedy assassination, there were no convertibles. No protectee could ever ride in a convertible. We changed to complete 360 degree, and if you notice presidential motorcades, you'll always notice a very well-armed group of agents, some of them actually riding on the limousine or walking next to it.
Like they were supposed to that day.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different things that day, but the trajectories of the bullets, yes, I did say bullets, plural, not from this direction, from this direction. If agents were actually on there, they think that where the shooters were, I did say plural shooters, that they would have been able to, because they had an inside person. So they would have known how to complete the assassination anyway. Say again?
I say defeat the coverage.
Yes. Yeah. Look, there's no doubt that the Secret Service agents suffered a great deal psychologically. Clint Hill, especially, he was the agent that you see climbing on the back of the limousine to get to Mrs. Kennedy, and you know it was a long.
They blew Kennedy from out of that back street.
The what?
There what rifle that was that blew Kennedy from out of that back street.
Yes.
22 bullets didn't do that.
Well, there were, three entry wounds that I've read, not from Secret Service documents. Let me just preface by saying that. I don't want that on video. No, I did not get any of this from anything having to do with the Secret Service. Another agent that lives here locally, he was on Johnson's detail, so he was there when took the oath. So it's an interesting story, but it is with everything that happened with communism and everything in the country back then with Kennedy, and now we are where we are. It's just very easy to kind of open books now and connect the dots, and it's been a plan in the works for a long time. And like I said, we've kind of relied on who we thought were staunch, freedom-loving, conservative Republicans, meaning they wear red ties and red underwear. We kind of relied on them to have our backs. And from Austin all the way to the White House, we need to make a lot of noise. And again, get involved locally, because if we can change local, we can change state and onward. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to let you know that what you said about the red tie and blue underwear. My husband and I were attending a party a few years ago before we had this tragedy loss of all our judges, and there were a mixture of Republicans and Democrats at the event, and in Rockwell. And sometimes people kind of assume that we belong to the other side. And basically said to us that, when you're in Rockwell, you have to run as a Republican because if you're winning, you run as a Democrat. You win as a Democrat.
Right.
Basically admitting that Democrats run as Republicans.
Absolutely. And that's why you have to, the candidates, we must conduct forums that make sense. Meaning, we can't have one person controlling the forums asking general questions. the people that that conduct the candidate forums, they really need to be pressured to allow the public to have some input. You gotta ask the really tough questions. And if they're not willing to, get them off there. They don't get to run the forum, right? Because we gotta know what they really stand for. Yes, sir.
Greg speaking. I was asked to run for office, or volunteer office. But I always voted Republican, because I've always worked for Republican. And I always liked the Republican stood for. I said, I can't do it. They said, we're gonna run you as a Democrat. I said, I can't do it. Because it's not about the money, it's about the job. When this race, come up, and I work for a Republican, and a Democrat won the seat. Everybody says you gotta run as a Democrat. I said, if I gotta run as a Democrat, I might as well just stay at home when I am. We're gonna win this race, we're gonna win it as a Republican. So I had a group, one of the video groups, I reached out to them and they checked my background. And they sent me an email yesterday and said, hey, you checked out. You've always been a Republican all your life. So it made me feel good, but I cannot deliver myself and change voice just to win a position like some of our county judges, our VA, and things like that, because I just believe what I believe.
Well, you have principles, and you live by those principles, and thank you very much for. Yeah.
I love blue.
Yeah. Hey, thin blue line right here. You know, it's yeah. Wear blue, yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
He worked for one of the Republicans as a JP in Garden, Texas, and the so-called Democrats went after him and sued him so much that it was unbelievable. And he's one of the deacons in his church right now. And, they finally got him out of there because, yeah, they just kept on going after him, and be trying to take it in the Republican Party and not stand up for it.
The bee analogy. Sting, 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 sting. We are very principled and very polite. We need to put our politeness aside a little bit and not be afraid to kind of, push back. Not, obviously, we don't do it with guns and tear gas, but we push back. You got to go to another county and get some more Republicans, right? Say again? Well, yeah, but see, the problem is so many of the judges have turned that, of course it's frivolous until it's not, right? Yes, you.
Yeah, we just, before we lose